Hey, welcome to the Social 333 podcast. I'm your host, Chris Bentley. Today, my guest is Michelle Enjoli. Did I say it right? Enjoli. Hey, I'll end it with the A, but yeah, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Enjoli, right?
Enjoli. Yeah. Like Jolie, like Angelina Jolie. Yeah.
Tell the audience a little bit about yourself and what you got going on.
Sure. My name is Michelle, and I'm a career development coach, strategist, and keynote speaker. And what I basically do is teach people how to become the CEOs of their careers and take full charge of its development and growth.
You got a lot of stuff going on I wanted to talk about. I know you work a lot with people that are in the corporate world, people that maybe graduating from school and looking to get into the corporate world. Talk to me a little bit about your phrase, you are the CEO of your career.
Yeah, so basically the CEO of your career, what it essentially means is I think of your career growth today like you would a business. So if you're the CEO of your business, you're the CEO of your career, meaning you take full charge. So you set the vision, you set the overall growth plan. And so being the CEO of your career means not waiting for someone else to kind of tell you, where you're headed or waiting for opportunities. Your goal is to attract and create opportunities for your career growth.
I know a lot of people on the show are entrepreneurs, business owners, and one of the things and I talk a lot about it, is I've had multiple jobs in between different economies, different things, and I've just seen a lot of different stuff, and I've always just kind of questioned or scratched my head on a lot of stuff. And then COVID kind of hit, changed a lot of the way a lot of leadership really thinks about their companies and stuff like that. And when I was going through COVID, I already had my real estate company, so I was already doing real estate, but there was always other people with the company that was doing Amazon. I had doing Amazon FBA as well. But I was always looking for different side hustles. They were too, for the most part. A lot of people didn't. They just accepted their role, and then they had children or, family responsibilities. But the ones that were really smart would be okay, well, I could do this job remotely, and then I could do another job remotely, work 2 remote jobs, have twice the PTO. If I needed to go into the office, I could do something like that. I know that's one way of making some extra money, but talk to me more on the career development part. People that are, they're corporate people. They love working a job. They love putting all their effort into that particular business. Because let's face it, not everybody's an entrepreneur. Not everybody's a business owner. Some people just are built to be employees, which is fantastic because you get to have the weekends off and you get to have PTO and enjoy your life and not have any stress. But talk to me a little bit about some mistakes that people are just making right now that you see either in their career or just, being stuck or different things. Kind of tell me about what you've seen or what you're seeing right now.
Yeah, well, one of the biggest mistakes that I see now is people just waiting and not moving. So, for example, you have people that are working in a job and they're potentially waiting for a promotion or waiting for that next challenge. And the thing with that is that we're in an economy now where you simply can't wait or not move just because the nature of your job today might not be the same nature in 2 years, right? The big talk right now is with AI. How is AI going to disrupt a ton of industries? There's a big fear about it. It is disrupting some industries. And so if you're someone who's kind of waiting and not moving, you might be someone who might be eventually get caught up in not having the right skills for the future of your company or the future of your field. So that's one of the biggest things that I see now is people, waiting and not moving and then kind of stuck in that fear and not doing anything about it.
I was one of those people because what would happen is it was just really difficult for me to get a job. And I get a job and I'd be like, okay, whew, that was a lot of emails and, sitting through interviews that I didn't get and stuff like that for jobs. And I finally got a job. I got it. And then I really hate to say it, but I stayed too long, and I think in I'm 47. So my generation, I feel once you land somewhere, you do the best you can. You try to create carve out a little niche for yourself that they can't fire you because you're so amazing in one particular niche. And I realized during kind of like COVID era and like kind of talking to some younger employees, that's not what they do at all. Like they're on job boards, they're moving and shaking. Like they may be at one job for a year and then bounce to another job that pays them, it could be an extra 1,000 or two or whatever. But for them, they're like climbing the ladder that way versus climbing the ladder traditionally, which was what I did, which is like stay forever, work on your skills, try to get them to pay for some sort of schooling or some sort of career advancement. And then, hopefully they see your, contribution to the company and raise your income or raise you into a promotion. So are you seeing a lot of that right now where people are just going, okay, well, this isn't doing it for me. I've given them X amount of time. Like I'm going to go somewhere else, get more skills somewhere else, and kind of climb the ladder that way.
Yeah, so I see a couple different things. I think the economy right now, has scared a lot of people. It doesn't matter the generation. So you do find people that maybe who 5 years ago would have moved more quickly today are kind of staying put just because of the fear and the uncertainty in the economy. And then another thing that I find is it's also personality based. So I find it that within different generations, it just depends. Are you, for some people who are very extroverted, they build connections quickly. They build relationships. So they might be moving much quicker within their company or be offered jobs outside of their company. And then you find the people who might be introverts that kind of like walk in, heads down, get your work done person, but they're not building any relationships. And so they might find themselves stuck for a number of years. So I think it's two things. It's one, personality type and how you develop and, build relationships. But then I also think, too, the state of the economy has a lot to do with it as well.
You brought up networking, which was a really interesting thing because I love to network. I'm very personable, very outgoing, as you can probably tell, right? So, like, I would just create really great, strong bonds with upper management, leadership. And then I was always, like, the last person fired or, like, the last person kind of like pushed out the door if there was a project that was closing or something like that. So I was always fortunate enough to do that. I know that in today's world, especially with like LinkedIn and different things, like you can do a lot more networking that way. Because my sister is a master CPA and she does a lot of networking through people that she used to work with and work for and, partners and bosses and stuff like that. And they moved to a different firm and they're like, oh yeah, I remember her. Like, let's bring her on board. So there's a lot of like that kind of stuff as well, where they bring their own people if you get in the right clique kind of deal, which I find is like a great thing as well. But the people that come in that are introverts that just keep their head down, just want to pay for their kids' tuition to school or doing whatever they want to do. I find them always on like the end of the stick. Like I'll go out, I'll be like, okay, I'll put together a networking event for like all of us on the whole floor of the company I worked for. We go out and we go eat, but it would be like the people that were introverts that would never go out with us. And then those would be like the first people fired because they did nothing. I never saw them. If I ever made it to the managing spot, like they would be the first people hired, no matter what their skill set was, because they just disappeared. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was, if I invite somebody out and just the way I am, like, and you don't show up repeatedly, I just take it personally. So is there any like weight to any of that stuff that I'm talking about?
So it's interesting because I have a soft spot for people like that because what I've found is, I'm someone who is an ambivert. So I am either introverted or extroverted depending on the energy in the room. So I understand when someone's really introverted all the time. But what I find is those people sometimes value more one-on-one interactions. So while they may not want to go out to, say, a happy hour with a bunch of people because they're uncomfortable in those situations, I think that where they tend to fall short is perhaps if that's something that makes you uncomfortable, I don't think you have to go or should go, but then maybe make the effort to still build those relationships, but in a much more comfortable way, which it might be, hey, Chris, want to grab a coffee or want to grab lunch today. And maybe in a more intimate setting, they can get to know you. So I think there's different ways of approaching it. It's just, I think, sad when, if they constantly decline invitations, it can be seen negatively. And I think that's where a lot of those people struggle, for growth because of that scenario.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Like I sat in my cubicle for, I think I was there for almost 4 years, and then I got the opportunity to be a manager. I applied for it, and it was really like a shooting gallery for the managers. Like once you got promoted to manager, you probably lasted, if you're good, you might last like 2 years, but that was like the max.
Wow.
It was just a shooting gallery, and then after a while, I was just like, because some of my friends got promoted, and I was like, like that person got promoted, like I could do a way better job than that person, right? And then I get the interview, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not doing that. So I think also with their promotion stuff, I think the grass looks greener on the other side with the promotion stuff. Like I think a lot of people think getting promoted, getting extra money, getting whatever benefit it is to becoming a manager or a partner or whatever the situation is. And then once they get there, I think a lot of people are like, crap, like, I don't want to do any of this work.
Yeah, so I see that a lot. So it's interesting because what I hear a lot from people is, I don't want the promotion, or I really love what I do, and I'm afraid that if I go into management, I'm going to be doing more people management, which is what the job is, and less of what I actually want to do. And so I've seen a couple of things. I've seen people repeatedly deny promotions, and some might have gotten penalized for it and some not. And then I've also seen people take the promotion because they felt obligated that was the thing they were supposed to do, and then in turn be miserable and then end up years later either wanting to get demoted or leaving the company to go back to doing the exact thing that they love to do. So,
yeah, I found that to be very surprising with not only places that I worked, but like the places, like that I built, where I would be like, okay, well, Johnny is really good at sales. Let's make Johnny like the sales manager. And then Johnny like hates his life. I think there was I watched some short or I read some article about, it was Alex Hermosi, and he was having his gyms and stuff set up, and he had a gym. He had a trainer at the gym, and the trainer was just like an all-star. He had like a ton of people, and Alex was like, "Hey, like, why don't you become a manager? It pays more. Like, you'll be able to, gym trainers really don't make that much money unless they have like, athletes and stuff that are pros and stuff like that." So he got promoted, and he absolutely hated his life, and he hated his life for like 6 months, and one day Alex was like, well, like you can go back to being, that person, but I won't pay you the same amount of money. He was like, thank God, like I'm ready to go. And it was just wild. Like some people they jump and they're just like, oh, wow, this is terrible. And I've been there before. Like you get to the top of the mountain and you look around, you're like, oh crap, like this is terrible.
Yeah. Well, that's why it's important too to know yourself, right?
Right.
Know what is it that you really, one, are good at, but then also two, what is it that you actually want to do? Because you can be good at doing something, but if you don't want to be there, that's also going to affect your performance and going to affect, your state of happiness at the job. So it's really important to also be self-aware.
Is there some career advice that's out there that's just terrible that you've heard and you're like, you like grimace or like, seize up every time you hear it? Is there anything out there like that right now?
Yeah. So the career advice that I cringe at today, because I know all different facets of it, is, find your passion, especially when it comes to people that are early in their career, either looking to graduate or within the first 10 years of their career, because find your passion, it's just so generic. And so, for example, I knew exactly the job that I wanted to do when I was still in college. So that was one path, and I knew that I wanted to get that. But there are so many people today that don't know what they want to do. They might have an idea of the area they want to go to. So telling someone, find your passion, you might not find it until you go and take those jobs that you might not originally think might be something that you want to do. And then you might end up falling in love with either the company, the environment, the actual job. And so for me, I always tell people, stop telling people to go find your passion and start telling people to go and try new things. Whatever field interests you, go and intern. If you're in mid-career or later career, go meet people, find connections, go get jobs in those areas, because you don't know what you might end up liking until you're actually there. And while this also applies, to early career, but also mid and later career, what if you're tired of being in a certain industry, you've been there for 20 years, or there's a certain shift and you have to make a move? Go and explore, right? And it might be in a field that you're passionate about, but it might not be the job that you're passionate in, and you might end up really liking it later on. So stop with generic advice and just tell people, hey, go be curious and try new things, because you might find what you're really good at and what you really like by actually doing something.
That's really good advice, because I was one of those people, because I got out of school and I liked a lot of stuff and I tried a lot of stuff. I signed up for a computer school, computer repair, which is like nobody does computer repair anymore. But like you just buy something new and replace it. But we had computer repair and you like solder motherboards and stuff like that. And the company went bankrupt.
Yeah.
And then I went to school. I was just had this conversation with somebody that's younger. I went to school and then I got a 2-year degree because I didn't take my SAT. And then I spent like, I think 5 years and like trying to get a 2-year degree, because I had to take all the curriculum, like all the basic stuff, everything, just to have enough credits to go to a university. And a lot of that stuff really opened up by me going to different jobs. So like I went to DEA and I really enjoyed doing intel. But backing up the story a little bit, like I loved racing cars, right? So I would race cars. I love fixing cars. I love working on my friends' cars. And then I was like, well, I'm going to turn this love of me working on cars into a profession. So then I worked at a junkyard. I worked at a couple of gas stations. Ultimately, I ended up as a GM tech working at a big GM dealership doing repairs. And after a while, I just hated it. And that started like me drinking too, because I just hated my job and everybody else drank. And I was like, well, I'll drink too. And then before you know it, like I was drinking all the time, even drinking at work. And I hated coming to work because it would be like, oh, today I get to change people's oil and rotate their tires. Versus, like when you work for like a race shop, like you're putting in new engines, you're trying to see how like fast it goes, you're trying to like do this or do that. You got a race coming up. So it's a little different. And it was just the wrong path. It was the right passion, but just the wrong place. And it ended up killing my passion, because I was like, I can't stand getting dirty anymore, or like the fun and joy of it just was completely gone.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm never doing this again. But I still love racing cars and working on cars. Let's talk about a little bit about people that are stuck. And I was stuck for a while in my career, and eventually I just ended up getting fired because of just bad job performance. Like eventually got to the point where I was doing real estate so much that I couldn't focus on my job, and I would spend the weekend trying to get caught up with my job. And it would be like, if I were grading my papers, it'd be like a C-. And I was just kind of gliding along on just the merit of me being social and personable and stuff like that. And eventually I ended up getting fired. But those people that are stuck, even in this economy, what do you recommend? Do you recommend them just hanging on for a little while longer? Do you recommend them pushing out resumes? Do you recommend maybe going to networking events, or maybe networking on LinkedIn, or doing different things that way?
Yeah, if you're stuck right now in your career, what I recommend is doing all of that, meaning don't just stay put. So for example, it's a, interesting economy. If you're employed, stay employed, right? Unless you have another job offer. So right now, if you're stuck, stay employed, but continue to do what you need to do to move forward, whether that's, taking a course, getting, updated skill sets, making connections, updating your LinkedIn profile, connecting with people. I think the goal is to not stop moving, and eventually you'll find either an exit or you'll find some type of plan, but you can't kind of sit there and wallow. You have to consistently be moving.
One of the things I wanted to ask you, and I don't know if it's like a faux pas or not. So like a lot of people from the company that I was with before I got fired, but like they got fired or they quit or whatever. And we all kind of treated them like exiled members of the island, right? And the island was work. Do you reach out to them via like LinkedIn, or like send them a text, or be like, hey bro, like, sorry you got, like cut, or, where are you working now, or whatever? Or are they hiring? Is that like a faux pas? Because we were always like, dude, we shouldn't do that. Like, I hate for that to come back and, they tell somebody and that they still know at the company that, hey, like I'm looking around.
You're saying that if someone gets fired from your company,
or they quit or whatever,
okay,
like they're no longer on the island, right?
Yeah.
They're no longer with the company, but you had some sort of ties, like you see the person every day and talk and speak to them or get coffee or whatever. and now they're no longer there. Do you reach out and say, hey, like, sorry, bro, like, do you hear bad news? Or like, hey, where did you end up finding a place? Like, are they hiring? Do you ever do any of that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, most of your network today, if once you've been working, I would say a minimum of 5 years, you start building a network through the people that you've worked with, right? I mean, I think about it like one of my closest friends today, I met at work. And a lot of my good friends today I've met through work. And so that's the natural part of building a network where you're on this island, right? Let's just say it's 100 of you. Well, guess what? In 5, 10, 15 years, and now with the pace of change, that could be much quicker. In 15 years, now all of those people might be at potentially 50 to 100 different companies, and now your network is spread out. And that's why I say there is value in building relationships at work and maintaining those relationships for as long as you can. I mean, there's a stat that's out there, which I think is much higher now, but there's a stat that says 85% of jobs today are filled through networking, right? And that networking means connections that you've made in the industry. People know who you are, they value how you work, and you're someone that could easily come onto their team and mesh quickly. Today, honestly, I think that's more like a 98%.
Wow.
Because of the economy, the nature of jobs, and for those really coveted jobs, which are, say executive level jobs with a lot of visibility. If you are someone who's looking to hire someone and you're in that position, of course you're going to want to hire someone that you know, right? That you've worked with, that you've built a rapport, because hiring someone that you know, that onboarding time is going to be cut down by 80%. Because all you have to do is potentially just onboard maybe some basics. But if you're hiring someone that you don't know off the street, that onboarding becomes a lot more intense, right? You have to learn how each other works, learn a personality, know a working flow. And then the other big thing is that this is really important for corporate companies is sometimes it's really hard to fire people. So you make, a lot of people are afraid of making a bad hire, and then it might take you 12 months to 2 years to have to let go of that person. And now you've lost 2 years of productivity, which you can't afford to do in today's economy and market.
That's really interesting because it was always like a faux pas. It was always like, oh no, like don't contact him. Like he's off. And like you're always worried about your own job, but never worried about, the upside, which is networking with them. Maybe they have a better opportunity somewhere else and they can get you
absolutely.
in. And I think that's a really, really good idea. It gave me some ideas. Talk to me about communicating your value. I talked about like kind of building a little niche for yourself while you're at work. How do you do that really because you're going to have the interviews at the end of the year of, why should we give you a bonus or why should we, promote you? Like, how do you do it where it doesn't sound like you're just the man or the woman, in the company?
Well, the thing is, it's right. In order to communicate your value, you almost don't have to communicate it as much as show it, right? Think about it. If you're really good at your job and you do a good job of making yourself known for being really good at your job, especially if you're someone who has a high visibility, whatever you do has a really high visibility in the company, your work is going to speak for you. So this is something where you don't have to tell people that you're valuable. You can show people that you're valuable in your day-to-day accomplishments. And then, if you're, having an annual evaluation, that's where you're hopefully taking notes throughout the year of those different accomplishments. And you can basically have a conversation about what those accomplishments were, and that speaks for itself. So you don't have to sit there and kind of, talk about yourself per se, and just talk about the kind of work that you've done, which hopefully is the work that is valuable to the company.
I know you coach and you speak a lot on stage. I'm trying to think of something that someone would really, really find of value. And the idea that I have is that if you're stuck or maybe you're just like in a situation where you got to find something, maybe you just let go and you're skilled, you had a skilled position before. What what 3 things would you recommend somebody doing to get the job that they want or the career that they want or the advancement that they want, like today? Like what kind of reps behind the scenes do they have to do to get what they really want?
Yeah. So in order to get the opportunities that you want today, and I talk more about how do you attract those opportunities, right? Because that's what you want. You want to attract opportunities or create them. So this is where becoming the CEO of your career comes into play. Act like the CEO of a company, right? So your company is your personal brand. That is the company that you own. That brand is going to live with you from the start of your career to the end of your career. And so how do you curate that brand? What do you have to do to build that brand? You have to market yourself. You have to sell yourself. You have to, amplify anything that you need to do, whether it's gain a new skill set, whatever that is. So I recommend you always thinking like a CEO and treating your career and your personal brand as that. Constantly networking, constantly marketing yourself. I know LinkedIn is a sore subject, right? Because a lot of people, think LinkedIn posts or posting on LinkedIn can be a little cringy, which it can be. But hey, if you made a big accomplishment, you were acknowledged for something, it's okay to post it out there. Why not? It's okay to, I recommend once a year minimum, go to a conference in your industry, right? If you're able to and you're a subject matter expertise, speak at a conference, become a panelist, showcase your knowledge in that way. So there are natural ways to go out there and move yourself forward, move your brand forward without it being so overt. Just kind of do a great job, consistently meet new people, and showcase your expertise through natural ways. And I think you should be set.
All the jobs that I've ever gotten that were great jobs, it was always a referral, or I had like probably one of the most intense interview sessions where I just I sold myself to that person, the interviewee or interviewer. The last one was, and I'll give you a little hint and then I'll let you go, but the last one was interviewing, and I've interviewed like a million places, it felt like I was just getting tossed left and right. Nobody was hiring me, and I really needed a job. I mean, it was like I was eating eggs and bacon every single meal. Like, it was tough, and like I was running out of cash. I was out of cash, actually. I was asking my mom for money to float me, and brand new BMW, leased out, everything. That's a whole nother crazy story. But I get in the interview, and like, I am who I am, so I get there and I'm wearing like, totally custom suit, expensive shoes. I'm sitting there talking to this guy that, is wearing like a windbreaker and like, jeans and sneakers, right? And, they finish up the interview and he goes, "How strong are you on?" No, he finishes up the interview. I could kind of tell that he wasn't interested. And he goes, "Is there anything that you'd like to say before the interview stops?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "Hang on a second." I said, "Look, like, I really need this job. And it's really not a job. It's a career advancement for me. And not only am I going to work my face off, but you're going to get a guy that's going to do whatever's being told times 10. Like, I'm going to get the job done for you. And I'm going to learn as quickly as possible. So what you're getting isn't just like some number or just some employee. You're getting a great person that's going to work extremely hard to make sure that you look good." And he was like, "How soon?" He said to me, "How strong is your Excel?" I said, "Strong enough. And whatever else I need to work on, I'll get it done. I'll watch a YouTube video." He goes, "Great. You start tomorrow." That was it. He's like, "So-and-so will contact you, and they'll get with your paperwork and whatever. But yeah, you start tomorrow." That was it.
Yeah.
That was my last job.
Yeah. Well, what it is, you were a salesperson, right?
Yeah.
You kind of told him what that he wanted to hear. I mean, he's an owner of a company, or was he an owner of a company?
He was like a manager.
Okay, a manager.
Hiring for his own team and stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay, but right, you told them what they wanted to hear. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to do what it takes. And this is something, I think somebody asked me this the other day. They were like, what kind of employees are the great employees to hire today? And I responded and said, employees who think like owners, right? Who come in and want to solve problems. They're not just coming in and checking a box. You want an employee who comes in, wants to solve problems, can solve problems, and if not, can offer some creative alternatives. So you want an employee who acts like a CEO.
Yes. It was crazy. Michelle, how can somebody find you if they want to get more information or go to one of your speaking events or even get coached by you?
Sure. You can find me. I'm mostly active on LinkedIn, Michelle Enjoli, or on my website, www.michellenjoli.com. Thank you for having me.
Michelle, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you.